We would not have erected these headstones without the help of Bill Stump. It is an understatement. Bill Stump is a sergeant in the New York Army National Guard and a detective in the NYPD. But in his spare time, he is junior vice commander of the Augustus and Horne Ellis Camp 124 of the Sons of Union Army Veterans. Stump learned of Mount Moor from a newspaper article in Loha. He reached out to us and offered to submit the applications to have any damaged or missing headstones replaced by the VA, an honorable act that he has performed at other cemeteries where Union Army veterans rest beneath fading or absent monuments. It is in the research to prepare those applications that the narratives of the extraordinary men who have found eternal shelter on this steep incline come alive. I am proud to introduce you to JVC William Stump.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to thank first the Friends of Mount Moor Cemetery, particularly Ed England, Bill Batson, and Willie Trotman for including me in this project. My name is William Stump, and I'm here with my fellow members of Augustus Van Horne Ellis Camp 124 of the Sons of Union Veterans. They're right over there. I'd also like to thank the 5th New York Cavalry and the 124th New York reenacting groups here for bringing us a little picture of the Civil War soldiers. Our organization exists as the congressionally chartered successor to the Grand Army of the Republic. One of the charges of our order is keeping alive the memory of those who fought to save our republic. Memorial Day is at the end of May because of the GAR. General John A. Logan, in his General Order Number 11, stated, "The 30th day of May, 1868, is designated for the purpose of strewing with flowers or otherwise decorating the graves of comrades who died in the defense of their country during the late rebellion, and whose bodies now lie in almost every city, village, and hamlet, churchyard in the land. We are organized, comrades, as our regulations tell us, for the purpose, among other things, of preserving and strengthening those kind and fraternal feelings which have bound together the soldiers, sailors, and marines who united to suppress the late rebellion. What can aid more to assure this result than cherishing tenderly the memory of our heroic dead, who made their breasts a barricade between our country and its foes? Their soldier lives were the revelry of freedom to a race in chains, and their death the tattoo of rebellious tyranny in arms. We should guard their graves with sacred vigilance. All that the consecrated wealth and taste of the nation can add to their adornment and security is but a fitting tribute to the memory of her slain defenders. Let no wanton foot tread rudely on such hollow grounds. Let pleasant paths invite the coming and going of reverent visitors and fond mourners. Let no vandalism of avarice or neglect, no ravages of time, testify to the present or to coming generations that we have forgotten as a people the cost of a free and undivided republic." As part of this project undertaken by Camp 124 and the Friends of Mount Moor, I've researched the lives of the 23 Civil War soldiers who rest here. We have secured 10 new headstones from the Department of Veterans Affairs. 6 of these stones mark graves that had no marking, in some cases for decades. 5 of these stones can be seen in honor in this new Mount Moor Veterans plot, right over there on the crest of the hill. Other replacements were for headstones that had been worn by time and vandalism. 23 of the 30 veterans buried in Mount Moor fought in the Civil War. Of that number, 4 were born into slavery. Nearly all fought as members of the United States Colored Troops. Founded in May of 1863, the USCT saw the enrollment of 178,000 African American soldiers. Free African Americans from the North fought in these units alongside men who had recently been liberated in the South. It was a transformative experience, as Frederick Douglass, whose 3 sons were all in the USCT, stated, "Once let the black man get upon his person the brass letters US. Let him get an eagle on his button and a musket on his shoulder and bullets in his pocket, and there is no power on earth or under the earth which can deny that he has earned the right to full citizenship in the United States." Mount Moor's Civil War veterans returned home from the war and became pillars of their community. starting businesses and raising families. Resting in this hillside are the veterans that went on to serve as the founding fathers for St. Charles AME Church in Sparkill, St. Philip's AME Church in Nyack, and St. Thomas AME Church in Haverstraw. They also took part in early civil rights organizations. After the war, they found fellowship as members of the Grand Army of the Republic. The Grand Army was, unlike the Army itself, a racially integrated organization, and many men who rest here belong to Waldron Post number 82 in Nyack, alongside white veterans. They also formed their own all-African-American post number 172, named for their beloved commander of the 26th USCT, William Silliman. 12 of Mount Moor's veterans fought in the 26th, which was one of 3 African-American regiments raised in New York. Silliman was killed in action with that unit on December 6, 1864 in South Carolina. Before commanding the 26th, he served in the 124th New York as a captain, the Orange Blossoms, the unit for which our camp is named. Please allow me to briefly share with you the lives of the 10 men whose headstones we dedicate today. William Henry Myers was born enslaved in Richmond and was sold in 1856 at age 12 to a plantation in Mississippi. 7 years later, he escaped with some others and joined General Grant at the Siege of Vicksburg. He rose to the rank of first sergeant in the 5th United States Colored Heavy Artillery and is the highest-ranking veteran buried here. In 1890, he spoke about his experiences in the post-war South, saying, "Having been a victim of Southern outrage myself, having been driven from the polls with a 7-shooter held too closely to my head for comfort, for no other offense than giving tickets to poor, ignorant freemen and explaining them, I am anxious to testify as to what made me and thousands more lose all interest in politics while in the South." Myers would go on to be the first African American to run for elected office in Rockland County, an unsuccessful bid for sheriff of Orangetown. He was a founding member of Nyack's chapter of the Afro-American League. That organization is a precursor to the NAACP. He rests on the far right. Next to Myers' stone is James Thompson. He was born in Brooklyn and served with the 26th USCT and suffered terribly from disease during the war. On the other side of the cemetery, with his vandalized headstone replaced, Samuel Thompson, a relative of James, was a corporal in the 26th and died in 1869 at age 34 from complications of a disease contracted while serving in South Carolina. Next to James Thompson's stone is John Cook, who is one of 2 naval veterans who are buried here. He held the rank of landsman and served as cook aboard the USS Metacomet. Born in Orangetown, Cook took part in one of the Navy's greatest days, the Battle of Mobile Bay on August 5, 1864. The Metacomet was directly next to Admiral David Farragut's flagship, and on deck, Landsman Cook may have heard the immortal shouted command from Farragut, "Damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead." 2 other men who have received new headstones actually enlisted together. John N. Miller and Richard Cisco were brothers-in-law, and they traveled from Rockland to Providence, Rhode Island, to enlist in the 14th Rhode Island Colored Heavy Artillery, which later became the 11th United States Colored Heavy Artillery. Miller died young at age 30 in 1870, most likely from complications from an illness he contracted during the war in Louisiana. Richard Cisco struggled mightily after the war, as sadly many veterans do even today. His headstone is next to John Cook. Next to Cisco's stone is Wilson Wyatt. He was born enslaved in Seaview, Virginia, on the Delmarva Peninsula. He joined the 10th USCT and was involved in the Siege of Petersburg, which ended in the fall of the trader capital of Richmond. Thomas Stewart fought with the 26th USCT, and after the war was one of a group of men who picked the site to move what was known as the Swamp Church from Skunk Hollow to its current location as St. Charles AME. He had no headstone, but his wife Rebecca did. We placed his headstone next to hers. Solomon E. Miller, who is front and center here, was from Amsterdam, New York, and was paid $300 to enlist in the place of a rich man who was drafted. This was a common practice during the war. His military records note that he was in action at Deep Bottom, Chaffin's Farm, the Siege of Petersburg, and the final battle in Virginia at Appomattox. Miller was present at the surrender of the Army of Northern Virginia at Appomattox Courthouse on April 9, 1865. He may have seen with his own eyes the face of Lee and the other defeated rebels, driven to that defeat by men like Miller. He rests near the entrance of the cemetery. Logan Lafayette's headstone on the hillside on our left was vandalized in 2018. That was the article that came across and brought Mount Moor to my attention. He was born in Kingston, New York, and served with the 5th Massachusetts Colored Cavalry. His unit was among the first to enter the city of Richmond after it fell. Largely abandoned by the rebels, they were greeted with the newly liberated black residents of Richmond cheering. Each of these men had Grand Army of the Republic's rites performed at their funerals here at Mount Moor, a time for comrades to bid farewell until they too made the final bivouac. Camp 124 members will now assist me in performing a modified version of the GAR's 1879 funeral rites. As Solomon E. Miller was the last Civil War soldier interred here, his grave will serve as our place of tribute. One by one, as the years roll on, we are called together to fulfill these sad duties of respect to our comrades of the war. The present, full of cares and pleasures of civil life, fades away, and we look back to a time when shoulder to shoulder, on bloody battlefield or around the guns of our men of war, we fought for our dear old flag. We may indulge the hope that the spirit with which on land and sea, hardship, privation, danger were encountered by our dead heroes, a spirit uncomplaining, nobly, manfully obedient to the behest of duty, whereby today our northern honors are secure and our loved ones rest in peace under the aegis of the flag, will provide a glorious incentive to the youth who, in the ages to come, may be called upon to uphold the destinies of our country. As the years roll on, we too shall have fought our battles through and be laid to rest. Our souls following the long column to the realms above, grim death, hour by hour, shall mark its victim. Let us so live that when the time shall come, those we leave behind may say above our graves, here lies the body of a true-hearted, brave, and earnest defender of the Republic. Brother Frustashi, on behalf of this post, gives a tribute wreath, a symbol of an undying love for comrades of the war. Brother Brown will lay a single rose, symbol of purity, offered at this lowly grave. May future generations emulate the unselfish devotion of even the lowliest of our heroes. Brother Dickerson presents a wreath of laurel, the last token of affection from comrades in arms. We crown these remains with a symbol of victory. The march of another comrade is over, and he lays down after it, in the house appointed for all the living. Thus summoned, this grave reminds us of the frailty of human life and the tenor by which we hold it. In such an hour as ye think not, the Son of Man cometh. It says well we should leave our comrades to rest, for over him will bend the arching sky, as it did in great love when he pitched his tent, or lay down weary, footsore by the way, or on the battlefield for an hour's sleep. As we lay our comrade to rest, no longer to hear the sound of waves, or to float upon the bosom of the deep, no longer to sail beneath peaceful skies, or to be driven before the angry storm. May he find welcome in that land where there is no more sea. As he was then, so he is still, in the hands of the Heavenly Father. Thank you.
Thank you, William Stump.